Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of FAQOV with your host, Phil Freeman, where I answer all of your questions having to do with singing and speaking and using your voice in a happy and healthy way. And today we're going to be covering confidence versus the ego. This is a continuation of our last topic that we talked about on FAQOV, and I also posted the very first podcast for the Vocal Blueprint. By the way, you can check that out at the link in the description below. And this is a really great question that I got from an anonymous user that was listening to the podcast, and they asked, Phil, you say fake it till you make it in the podcast. When is the line crossed between confidence and ego? Because confidence is a very positive, very awesome thing to have, but ego is the negative of confidence. So they wanted me to describe the difference between the two and maybe clarify where you use fake it till you make it and how to use that mentality. So thank you so much to that anonymous user for that question, and I'm really excited to answer it today. And before I get into it, I really want to give a great shout out to Ryan Holiday, who is the author of the book Ego is the Enemy. Make sure you check out that book because it really helped me be able to make this little Venn diagram and do this video today for you. So thank you again, Ryan Holiday. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching this episode. Let's get into it right now. Okay, so confidence versus the ego. They both share a similar trait, the fake it till you make it idea. The fact that if you keep going and keep doing things, you will make it. You might not feel confident at first, but if you take that giant leap of faith, you'll be able to get into it. You have to, if you want to be a confident person, you have to act like a confident person. So that's an important thing to understand. But let's clarify that. Let's take the fable of the tortoise and the hare. And if you're not familiar with it, there is a tortoise, there is a rabbit, and they are in a race together. And the hare, in other words, the rabbit, has a lot of talent. He's very fast. So given his advantages and given all these things that, have added up to this point, he's very prideful. He has a lot of hubris, and he's very impatient and impulsive because he feels that he is a champion. He feels that he's already won because of who he is and what he's done in the past. So given that, the tortoise, he's very slow. But he has an internal motivation. He's thinking, you know what? No matter what happens, whether I win this, whether I don't, I'm going to finish this race because it doesn't have to do with winning. It has to do with me making progress. So we always want to take the attitude of the tortoise as opposed to the hare. Because it's always much better to be consistent over time, to have humility during that process, to be persistent during that process, and to be rational and logical in our decisions. And if we feel shy, if we feel uncomfortable with getting into something, that's where the fake it till you make it happens. You have to jump. You have to make that leap of faith. But once you do, you have to put in the consistency, the time, the humility, the persistence, the rational and logical thinking, and be internally motivated to build what's called competence. And here's a great saying that's out there. Confidence comes from competence. So, given that, you need to keep this cyclical energy happening. In order to build confidence in a skill or in yourself, you have to keep practicing these over time. You cannot sit on your laurels. And once that cycle starts to slow down or even stop, this is when this guy makes an appearance. It is possible to have ego and confidence at the same time. There's a lot of great leaders, entrepreneurs, sportsmen. People have a tendency to have two traits, and they're always battling against each other because it's always a balancing act. You have to make sure that you're keeping one in check with the other. So, and given that ego, if you let ego take over, you get tied up with the talent. You look at this and you're just like, you know what? I don't need to be as consistent or put as much time into things or be as humble because I've accomplished a lot with my life. So, I feel entitled to certain things. You know, I don't have to put in as much work. I can enjoy myself, you know? And then you start getting delusional when things start not going your way. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make this happen. You come hell or high water, blah! And then once you fail, once you get to the point where something terrible happens, your emotion becomes very uncontrollable and your whole world collapses if some catastrophe happens either in business or in your personal life. And it's just one of those things where you become externally motivated. You are reactive to what's happening around you. And you're just like, why is this happening to me? I'm the greatest person. This wasn't supposed to happen. As where someone with an internal motivation, even if things are failing and falling apart completely, put consistency, time, humility, persistence, rational, and logical thinking into what they're doing, and they can make it through. That is the difference between someone who lets ego take over and is the master of this whole situation, and someone who takes the approach of confidence. And it's something that we have to check and balance all the time in business, in profession, in entrepreneurship, in singing, in speaking, in personal development in life. And I really, really hope that all of this makes sense for all of you out there, and that you apply this to not just your singing and speaking life, but also, as I said before, your personal life as well. So, fake it till you make it. Take that approach to make the leap of faith, and then let this side of the spectrum keep going and going and going. Let this keep going. Keep cyclically cycling over and over and over again to make progress, instead of trying to reach for perfection and letting this stop. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of FAQOV. This is your host, Phil Freeman. I'll put the link to Ryan Holiday's Ego is the Enemy in the description, as well as a link to the podcast, because I will be also posting a podcast in pairing with this video. Thank you so much again, everyone. Always remember, practice makes progress. And with that, you will go and find your voice. Take care until next time.